If the Brewers are going to stay in contention all summer long and possibly make a run in the playoffs, they're going to need nights like the last two nights where they lean heavily on their pitching because their offense is not going to get the job done. But their bullpen and starting pitching has been great. We'll talk about that. Taking 3 of 4 in New York against the Mets, moving on to take on Pittsburgh in a 3-game set this weekend, and also the Brewers make another roster move. All that's next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For the carbon copy win. Wash, rinse, repeat. Is that what it is? Or rinse, wash, repeat, dry, or whatever. Hey, they took 3 of 4 against the New York Mets. And that bullpen that the Brewers have, you'd be hard-pressed to find another bullpen like that in baseball. And I'm talking all those guys are just getting the job done for the Milwaukee Brewers. And they win 3-2 in New York. They make just a couple of runs, stand up once again to get the job done. And again, take a series against a team that's struggling, but a team that's talented. And this has been a great road trip so far for the Brewers. We're getting all that coming up here on Locked On Brewers. My name is Chuck Freeman, first-year host here on Locked On Brewers. Longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, sports talk show host, morning sports anchor at 1310 WIBA in Madison. And of course, I've been covering the Brewers for over 40 years for AP Radio. Like you, the Milwaukee Brewers are my favorite professional sports team. And it's great talking Brewers baseball with you guys every day here on Locked On Brewers. We are your team every day. Check us out. Download us on the platforms, the audio platforms, Google, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Those are the major ones. I list them all on my Twitter account, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. We're here 30 minutes each night. And of course, love to have you on the YouTube video. Subscribe, search Locked On Brewers. You'll see my smiling face. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. It'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. And of course, on your various audio platforms where you drop the podcast, there's got to be an alert there to let you know when we drop these podcasts, which is usually in the middle of the night, but we get the video out as soon as possible right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, that bullpen, a 5-2 road trip for the Brewers so far. They took 2 of 3 in Cleveland and 3 of 4 in New York. And if the Mets thought they were going to start getting happy on the Brewers and turning their fortunes around, they had another thing coming because they ran into the guys like Peguera, Payamps, and Williams in this series. Wow, how great were those guys out of the bullpen? And they have been all season long. And further earning my trust, do I think they could use another bullpen guy? Absolutely. There's a lot of things this team could use. But you know what? So far, so good for that pitching staff and that bullpen. Fantastic. They took 3 of 4, and they have won 9 of 13 thus far. Where do we start? Let's start with the bullpen. All right. Peguera and that sinker that he had working got out of a mess with one pitch on a double play ball in the 7th inning, came in and a double play got him out of the inning. And I tweeted out, Elvis, unflappable Elvis, and certainly was. Came in like there's no pressure at all. Through one pitch, walked off the mound. The fella did his job. Okay. And then Payamps. How about, and by the way, Peguera, that sinker is just falling off the table. That sinker is just unbelievable. I mean, he's had a couple of tough ones this year, inherited runs, but man, Peguera in the 7th inning, a guy like that, great. Payamps, an 8th inning guy so far, wow, he's got filthy stuff. So between Peguera and Payamps, and then you give it over to Devin Williams. And yeah, bases were loaded against Williams in the 9th inning. But you know what? He got out of it. He struck out Marte to end the game. And Devin Williams now with a season high 16 saves. 16 saves. It seems weird. You would think he'd have more. Career high 16 saves. You'd think he'd have more because it seems like he's been a closer for a long time now. But you got to remember, of course, Josh. We want to forget about the Josh Hader trade because it was so bad. But yeah, he didn't move into the closer's role until Hader was gone. So 16 saves And he has saved games in the past when, Hader was injured or whatever, or couldn't perform. But Devin didn't have his best stuff. Location wasn't great, but the mark of a great pitcher is a guy who's not going to have his best stuff, because you're not going to have it every night. Just like when we go out on the golf course, we're not going to shoot a 38 every night. All right. You're going to have troubles on certain parts of your game. It's just you might not putt well one night. Same with these guys. All right. Devin Williams, as tough as he is, he's 16 of 17 saving games, but sometimes that location just isn't going to be there. Sometimes the velo may not be there. Williams didn't have his best stuff tonight, but Devin got the job done once again. Wow. 3 scoreless innings out of that bullpen, and the Brewers win. Now we got to get to the starter, Adrian Houser. Adrian, yeah, I think, me included, when it's Adrian's turn in the starting rotation, how many of us are like, oh boy, because you better hit with Adrian on the mound. Okay. Now, he was highly touted in the draft, 2nd round draft pick. Okay. By the Houston Astros, I believe. And yeah, he's been a reliever. He's been a starter, and he's been a guy who, when it's his turn in the starting rotation, you're like, please, offense, score some runs. But Houser was great tonight. I mean, I would love to get more of this out of him, to be honest with you. And when you're building your 5-man rotation, you make it difficult on manager Craig Counsell. Okay. But Houser, 6 innings, 7 hits. He's never going to be a big strikeout guy. 5 Ks, gave up 2 solo home runs. I'll take that out of Adrian Houser. If I could get that out of him, or any pitcher for that matter, but especially Adrian Houser, 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 solo home run balls, I'll take it. If they would have lost this game, you blame the offense. Yeah, the offense stunk again tonight. Okay, it was. But if this is the way it's going to be, this is the way it's going to have to be. Putting pressure on the pitching staff. You hate to live that way. You do. But this is the way this club is built. This club is built with a lot of players offensively who are terrible offensively. Let's face it. And they just sent one of the guys down to AAA. We'll talk about him coming up. But I mean, you look at a lot of these teams, a lot of these batting averages, and they're just bad. Okay. On base percentages, bad. Terrible. Rowdy Tellez had another horrible at bat. But if guys are going to be that way, the bullpen has got to be rock solid. The starting pitching has got to be rock solid. And it was tonight. Williams had 3 saves. He had saved all 3 of the games in this series. My gosh, how great is he? So unfortunately, you hate that lean so much in your bullpen and your starting pitching, but this is where the Brewers are at right now. This is where they're at because, this is the Brian Anderson booted a potential double play ball later in that game. I think it was the 7th inning. And I put out a tweet. If Brian Anderson, yeah, he's usually pretty good defensively. We know that. But if he's going to hit himself some 220, you better feel that ground. You better feel every ground ball coming your way. No excuses. You better make that play. If you want to stay in the majors, all right, you want a major league career, you got to make that play. Now, I don't want to hear that. Oh, that's a play he usually makes. Oh, we'll cut up some slack. No, you're hitting 220. You better make every play out there. No, I'm at a no tolerance level with these guys, the Brewers. The Brewers are low tolerance, no tolerance, okay? Because, yes, 54 years, I'm at wit's end with the franchise, okay? So no tolerance. I'm like, he's got to do this. No. Get the job done defensively, okay? And he has for the most part, but he booted a double play, and then the Brewers eventually worked themselves out of it. So anyway, pitching, fantastic. Offense, just bad. Victor Caratini, for those who didn't see the game, he had a 2-run home run off Max Scherzer to tie the game. Scherzer had a 2-0 lead into the 6th inning. And let's face it, we thought, okay, this is going to be another game. Scherzer and the Mets bullpen going to shut down the Brewers. The Brewers were headed for a shutout loss in this game. And then Victor Caratini out of nowhere. Yeah, Tellez had an RBI. He had a single to start the inning. Single to center. Yes. Thank you, Rowdy. But Caratini, a 2-run homer off Scherzer. And then Scherzer was out of there the next inning on 102 pitches, high pitch count. And then the Brewers took the lead on a Brian Anderson sac fly. Deep fly ball at the bases loaded. Got the run in. And, of course, the Brewers could pad that lead offensively and put all the pressure, but Peguera, Payamps, and Williams. Thank God these guys are having great years. Because if they didn't, where would this team be? They'd be right down there with the St. Louis Cardinals, who got beat again. So, yeah, Caratini and then Brian Anderson, the 7th inning sac fly, and the Brewers go on to win. So, all right, moving on to Pittsburgh. We're going to talk about this Pittsburgh series coming up here in a little bit. The Brewers just took 3 straight from the Pirates. The roster move, Urias sent down. We're going to get to that. Adames continues to struggle. We'll get to all that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along here. And, you know, if I don't get a chance to talk to you this weekend, have a great weekend, a great Independence Day. Yeah, I know you all earned it, and the Brewers will be back home coming up next Monday. This show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. You bet $20, you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. How about that? That's $200 you could spend betting everything from the money lines to the over-unders or who you think is going to hit the first home run of the game. All on the app, safe, secure, super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can instantly get paid. There's no better way to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today, FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bet. That's right, FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. How about that? Tomorrow, the Brewers and Pirates, I got to put my glasses on for those of you watching the video so I can read that stuff. The Brewers and Pirates at a first of a 3-game set in Pittsburgh, 6:10 with the play-by-play tomorrow night. The Brewers hometown broadcast and Sirius XM, the SXM app, search Brewers, and you're going to get all 162. And the Brewers in a weekend series with the Pirates. Thank you, all you everydayers out there, for joining us as always. We're going to talk about a few other things coming up with the Brewers coming up here in a little bit. But thank you. Find us on your various platforms, Google, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Download YouTube if you don't have that app already. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we will be there for you every day, Monday through Friday, on Locked On Brewers, on Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Plenty to get to next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host here on Locked On Brewers on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Did you see Orlando Arcia? First-time All-Star. First time as a starter with the Atlanta Braves. I don't know if it's the first time he's an All-Star, but I know it's the first time he has been voted in as a starter with the Atlanta Braves. Orlando Arcia. You'd like to make the trade-off with Adames right now. A couple of years ago you wouldn't have, but man, the way Adames is going right now just looks terrible at the plate. But congratulations out to the former Brewer, Orlando Arcia, who has made his way into the All-Star game. All right, I want to check. I just want to look real quick here at the batting average for Adames. He went 0 for 4. I believe he's 0 for his last 20. He's batting 198. He struck out twice tonight. 198. And I get questions all the time. Why do the Brewers keep running Adames out there in the 3 or 4 hole? Because I think Craig Counsell keeps thinking he's going to snap out of it. I mean, I don't want to think that Adames is this bad because he's got a track record of being good. But geez, just looks horrible at the plate. I don't know what you do there. Yeah, his defense has been decent. Okay. Early in the season, maybe not so much, but he has come on. I mentioned something about his defense last week. But Adames, how about this? Your batting order, your heart of the order, you're 3, 4, 5. Adames 198, Tellez 216, Brian Anderson batting 5th 221. That's horrific. That is absolutely awful. Those are just horrendous off numbers. Do you give Adames a day off? You know, this giving a guy a day off. I don't know if that works. Does it? I mean, giving a guy a rest, let him regroup and all that. I don't think that. I like to see the math on all that. I mean, if the guy's hurt or tired or whatever, okay. But letting him sit back for a game to think about where he's been. God, if I'm sitting on the bench, I'd be itching to get back into the ball game, I think. And I don't know. I don't know if sitting a guy ever does anything good. But he does got to get better. Luis Urias found out that he can't be going on this way. He's hitting 145. Brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Yeah, he got hurt first game of the series, the season in Chicago at Wrigley by diving into first base. He says it wasn't because of the dive. Okay, whatever it was, he missed some time. And since then, not been good at all. Urias is going to give him a good defense. But when you're hitting 145 and playing on a regular basis, you can't keep going on that way. They had to make a decision. They sent him down. Hopefully he gets fixed. They sent down Bryce Terang, remember, about a month ago, I want to say. And he went down, and he was hitting 298 down there. Not great, but decently. Terang is never going to be a 300 hitter, but he's going to give you great defense. Made a terrific defensive play tonight, and they decided to call him back. We knew Terang was going to be back. Some of you said, Urias, trade him. No, you can't. What are you going to trade? I mean, how are you going to trade him? What are you going to get for Urias at this point? Nothing. Back to Tellez. He was pinch hit for by Owen Miller. And Miller came up with a big hit in that seventh inning. Yes. Great move by Craig Counsell, because Tellez is, a heart of the order guy, but hasn't earned not getting pitched in for. I don't want Tellez in there. I don't want Tellez in there. He got a base hit earlier in the game, but no. Owen Miller against the lefty. Owen Miller came through. Yeah, Tellez. But that's where I think Tellez is with the Brewers right now is, and he looked really bad on one strikeout. Okay. I think they've sent a message to Tellez, this is not your spot permanently. If you don't produce, we'll get somebody else out there, even if the guy is not a natural first baseman. That's what you got to do. Tellez, you got nothing committed. You don't have a $25 million salary committed to Tellez. All right. If he pinch hit, if that's a blow to his ego, I'm here to win baseball games. I don't care. If Yelich is struggling, pinch hit for him. There's no feelings to be won or lost here, because trying to win this division, okay, and fend off the Cincinnatis and the St. Louis's, who just seem never to be able to make a run. So, yeah, Urias sent down just was very bad. Let's get to some of your tweets. See what you guys had to say tonight. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Again, the Brewers and Pirates coming up on Friday night, 6:10, with the play-by-play on Sirius XM, the SXM app. Search Brewers, and you will find the Brewers and Pirates on Sirius XM. I'm going to be in Northern Michigan this weekend. It seems like no matter where I go, I run into fans. So Sirius XM will be working for me on my drive, so I can, because there ain't no Brewer affiliate up in Upper Michigan, so I can catch me some Brewers and Pirates on my drive up there tomorrow. Jeff says, well, I put on there, okay, he's responding to this. I put out a tweet tonight. How you get your alerts on the phone? I got an alert from ESPN. Said, the Mets lose again. That's the title. The Mets lose again. And I'm like, oh, great. Shoving New York news down our throats here in the Midwest and around the world, thinking that we all care so greatly about New York. Not that the Brewers took 3 of 4, but the Mets lose again. If the Brewers had dropped 3 of 4, I guarantee you there wouldn't be an alert put out by ESPN. Brewers lose again, unless they lost like 15 in a row. Because again, MLB only cares of a handful of teams anyway, and Brewers certainly are not one of them. Ty says, what do you think the Brewers should do at the trading deadline? Can they do anything? I think they're going to try to get themselves a bat. They might move They have a glutton of starting pitchers. Could they move one of those guys? Could they? To get some offense? I'd be good with that. Move a starting pitcher to get some offense on this team. Now, I said at the beginning of this podcast, the way the Brewers are going to have to win is because of their pitching. But if you have 6 starters, how about trading one of those guys? We'll see. But they need a lot of bats. They need a lot of offense. I'd like to see that they need a new first baseman and third baseman right now. And Brian Anderson, you put him in wherever you plug him in, wherever. But I don't think he's earned an everyday starting spot. Bill says maybe we can add a bat from a terrible franchise like the New York Mets. $353 million to be 9 under 500. I thought their payroll was like $450 million. Okay. Either way, yeah. Well, the Mets got too much pride. They are never going to be sellers. Sam quotes on here on Devin Williams. What makes a great closer? Stuff wasn't working the best, and he was able to get it done. Yeah, that's what I said earlier in the podcast. Didn't have his best stuff. Buck says, great to have Terang in his glove back. Defense saves runs, and he's demonstrating that tonight. Yeah, and I said pitching is going to have to carry the way. So is the defense. The defense has been great for the most part this year. Yeah, I mentioned about Anderson booting that double play ball, but the defense has been darn good for the Brewers. And if you're not going to win with offense, your defense, along with your pitching, has got to be great. Let's see here. I put on Twitter, if Anderson is going to hit just what I mentioned on the show, if Anderson is going to hit 220, he's got to make that play. No excuses. The double play botch. DFA Urias says he has a free spot knowing that nobody will be better than him. Yeah, I think some of these guys think that who's going to replace me? I mean, I mentioned this last night. Does Tellez think that his spot is ingrained forever in that starting lineup? Not unless they find somebody better. I can't read that one. Buck says Tellez and Adames need to take cues from how Caratini performs against Scherzer and stop being mentally weak up at the plate. Yeah, Caratini did come big. But Tellez and Adames, my goodness. There's no way to sugarcoat their bad seasons. Mike says, great job by Caratini to pick up Anderson after that awful called third strike. We are tied. Yes, we are. And that was sent earlier in the game. Call up Keston says, you were absolutely right about Rowdy last night. He looks complacent and way too comfortable with his roster spot. They need to start holding him accountable and show him he's replaceable. Exactly, Sam, or call up Keston. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, that was, but we got a lot of them. A lot of great tweets here tonight. We come back. We'll take a look at the first of a 3-game set with the Pittsburgh Pirates next here on Locked On Brewers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Brewers. Your host, Chuck Freeman. Thanks for joining us on Locked On Brewers and Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Brewers will be facing a 27-year-old rookie, Osvaldo Bido. Osvaldo Bido has made 3 solid starts for the Pirates since being called up earlier in June. He's a 27-year-old rookie, 3.45 earned run average. Again, 3 good starts for him so far. Osvaldo Bido. He makes the start for the Pirates. Freddie Peralta for the Brewers. Freddie has not had a win in his last 6 starts. He's 5-7, lost on Saturday night against Cleveland. But Freddie's got to get back on track again. Freddie's had quality starts this year, but 5-7, a 4.35 earned run average. If that's my handwriting looks so bad there. Yeah, that's what it is. Freddie Peralta against Osvaldo Bido in a first of 3 against the Pirates. It took 3 for the Pirates on this last homestand against Pittsburgh and was great. You know, you knocked Pittsburgh. They were on a little bit of a roll coming in. Now the Pirates went on a 10-game skid, and they just took 3 straight from the San Diego Padres. They took 3 straight from the Padres. So the Pirates are now 4 games under the 500 mark in this division. the Brewers will be at Pittsburgh. There won't be anybody in the stands as usual in Pittsburgh. And of course, Major League Baseball doesn't care because they could care less about the Pirates or the Brewers for that matter. But first of three, got to go in there and win 2 or 3. I'm not saying you got to sweep, but winning a 2 or 3 would be nice this weekend against the Pirates, again, who just took 3 straight from the Padres. The Brewers are playing some good ball right now. They've won 9 of their last 13. They've leaned heavily on their pitching staff, and they're going to have to continue to do that. All right. They won 2 of those games last weekend against Cleveland by scoring 6 and 7 runs respectively. But I think we're halfway through the season, 81 games, and the Brewers aren't showing any ability. Some of these guys, I read those heart of the order numbers, just absolutely brutal. But the ERAs of those guys out of the bullpen, pristine, led by our man coming out of the bullpen last, the closer, Devin Williams, getting his 16th save on Thursday night. What a series in New York. High drama Thursday night. The Brewers win 3-2. Have yourself a great Independence Day, everybody, and a great 4 days. A lot of you guys out there, work your butts off. Work your butts off, and your one joy is following the Brewers Monday through Sunday. And I appreciate you joining me here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, follow us on the podcast. Follow us on YouTube. You know where to find us. So long, everybody. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.